Work session agenda at 8:04. And I'm going to ask Mr. Vela, who was the one that had was making the comments, so he can come forward.
Yeah, the 1.6 was right. I just started getting mixed up.
Mr. Vela, I'm going to go ahead and finish your thought before. You were looking at some things you wanted to clear up, and now we can go forward with that.
The only thing I was going to suggest, Mayor,
Yes.
members of the City Commission, is that I think the commissioner is looking for is a commitment for the amount of money that he's talking about, but he's really looking for delivery of proceeds of actual dollars in fiscal year 14-15 of 1.65, in 15-16, 2.35, and 217, 218 of 1.7.
So if we were to issue something do we do it in phases? Would we be able to issue 1.6 for the year, and that's it, and not commit to $5 million worth
Well, I think
until the time comes that the next phase would kick in?
I don't want to speak for him because I don't know what his legal commitments are from a programmatic standpoint. But I do know from our standpoint that it would be better legally to do it in phases rather than all at one lump sum, although it would be probably more cost-effective to do it in one issuance than in three issuance, because we're looking at 3 years' worth of interest rate risk here versus the amount of time that we're talking. But it doesn't appear that we're going to be able to spend this money very quickly.
Correct.
So maybe even a 2-year period, we could cut it into a 2-year period and monitor as it goes along. Now, you may want to ask the commissioner what kind of a commitment he's looking for.
I need a commitment that we're going to move forward on the projects, and then whatever works for your cash flow, and of course, I don't want you to spend on money that you're not using either. We'll do anything that we can to help the city of San Juan and save as much money as possible. I just don't want to get caught with, we move forward, and because the county's spending a lot of money too. And, you know, we're not going to have these opportunities. This isn't going to happen every year. I mean, if you want to say we're fully loaded, we have COs that were issued in November, so we have $3.75 million for that. We have the money that's set aside every year. It's about $1 million. We have other monies coming in. This doesn't happen every year. We don't have $10 million available every year. So we're looking for projects to work on, and if we get a commitment, San Juan says, hey, help us with the cash flow, but we're committing $5.7 million, then we'll start moving forward too, because we also have to cash flow the project. And then with respect to having going out to a vote on the bond deal, I think the next time you can go to a vote is in November.
There's 2 dates that you can go. One of them is May, and the other is November. May is too late.
The reason I bring that up is only that if we do go to November, then we'll have to look at doing option A instead of option C, because we're not going to know what's going to happen in November. And so if we go to November, then we'll come back with a cost on option A, and then the city would contribute, I guess, the difference, and we'll move forward with option A. Because if not, I mean, nobody wants to wait until November to move forward on the overlays.
No, definitely not.
Right.
That is a very different scenario. If we don't commit ourselves to $5 million today, we have $4 million available, then we could actually, if we're looking at the 1.6. Exactly. 1.6 still allows us money to address some of our drainage issues if we get to the 4 million, and be able to do that as well. That I can work with. I personally can't, because then that makes a lot more sense to me that we are able to look at something other than just 2 roads or 3 roads. And when we talk about, let's say that the scenarios, we commit the 1.6 million now, knowing that we have 4 million available without raising taxes, everything stays the same. if we were to issue money so we could do the drainage issue for the Las Flores and Las Brechas, and then something for San Antonio, then we can actually take a little bit more flexibility of seeing, can we meet some of these? And I think one of the things that, in talking to Mr. Sessom before he left, that he has already, and I think it was maybe from the last time we had a meeting with the county, there was some proposals on some overlay on San Antonio from Ridge Road to, or Sam Houston, all the way to,
But
okay,
it was-
Ridge or Sam Houston. We can go to Sam Houston, that would be even better. But from Ridge to where we're looking at, that might be even, you know, if we can get a partnership with the county for that, so that when we look at the amount that Mr. Cruz has proposed, we don't necessarily have to be looking at close to 600,000, but maybe 300,000, which we could then absorb with the 4 million that we're looking at.
Now, what would that look like? And I'm just curious, what would that look like as an obligation? Because are we just gonna agree to budget for that? Or, I mean, how is that obligation memorialized and made official? Because if we can do that, then I agree that's the best way to go, because that gives us enough flexibility to address several issues. The only concern I have is how do you memorialize and make that an official document that we could move forward with?
First of all,
Whether you're raising taxes or not, it's the same thing.
what we were thinking, I think, if I can reiterate what we talked about here, is doing the 165 and the 235 now. Okay? Now, I still would want to run this by the bond attorney to make sure, what you're saying, Commissioner, is that the 165 would be spent and the 235 would be spent no later than 16 ended.
I think it was 17, wasn't it?
17. So the only real commitment that we would have pending would be the 1.7.
Just so that we're clear, 4.7 is needed for Sue and Eldora, but I mean, at least we're close, we're in the ballpark. You know what I mean? The cash flow is broken down, but it's not broken down by streets, it's broken down by years.
So back to the question that the commissioner had, obviously I'm not a lawyer, but some sort of an interlocal agreement, some sort of, that requires board action to approve and commit to fund these projects? I don't know. I defer to you.
That's what I would think. I mean, I would think that that's what we would have to do. What we have right now currently with the county is an interlocal agreement, and that's what the counties and the municipalities would enter, so.
The only difference on this, and hopefully that'll work, is the length of time, that it's more than a year. Yes, sir.
Okay, so then, what you're saying, Commissioner, is it's not 1.6 that you are looking for the commitment then. If we look at, okay, 2 roads, we're looking at 3.95 as a commitment. Is that correct?
4.7 million for Sue and Eldora.
Right, but if we do 1.6 now and 2.35,
That gets us 4 of the 4.7.
which would get,
You would just be lacking the 700,000.
okay,
Yes.
It would get you 4 of the 5.7. Okay.
But we only need $1 million for Cesar Chavez. So 5.7 minus $1 million is 4.7.
Well, we can deliver $4 million. With, assuming that we get the transfer from the general fund over to the debt service.
and then any other project will be raising taxes.
Mayor, and just one point, just so that I'm 100% clear. Cesar Chavez, the reason we looked at it, because the city of San Juan has been looking at it for a long period of time, but also because Alamo has set aside $1 million for it. And that's why you're only having to contribute $1 million on a 2.8 mile long road. I've seen some costs just on 83 to Carroll, which I believe is like a quarter of a mile. Those costs are about over $2 million.
You almost picked up the full amount there, Chief. Anything else, Mr. Vela? Okay. Anything else from anybody?
I think that under agenda item D, I think we have the opportunity to take some action tonight, and that's what I'd really like to leave here with, at least some clear directive, if not an actual decision. I'd prefer an actual decision, but at the very least, a clear directive to Mr. Vela as to what it is that we can do to commit the funding to get these projects done. And if we can do it in such a way where we're committing to the total amount and we're paying it from the different fiscal years, then that allows us the flexibility to be able to do the drainage projects and any other projects, which is great. But again, I think it's important that we know what the instrument is that will commit and bond everyone to that commitment. And if we can do that, I think we've just come up with a solution to address some of the major needs of the city for the next 10 to 15 years at the very least. If we're able to do the drainage, if we're able to do San Antonio, if we're able to do, Sioux Road, Eldora, and we're able to put ourselves in a position where we can also start addressing our needs with our police station as well. So at this point, I mean, I don't know, can we agree to at least give Mr. Vela the directive to identify by which method or by which instrument we would commit to doing those projects financially? Is that something that we could agree to?
And now let me go over what we're talking about, those projects. We're talking about the ones the commissioner's spoken about. We're talking about the San Antonio. We're talking about Las Flores and Las Brechas, correct? And then the police station.
Although with the police station, I think it's a little bit more difficult only because we don't know what the final dollar amount is.
That's correct, but I think we can at least,
Begin with the others,
and throwing it in there because I know we have forfeiture money that's going to expire in 2015.
Right.
So
needs to be
if we can look at a way that we can commit some money to the police station as well to incorporate the forfeiture money and the money they've just acquired, we could actually maybe even go a longer way. So I'm okay with that. If we would do the roads proposed, were South San Antonio, Las Flores, Las Brechas,
Just to be clear, drainage on those.
drainage, and the police station. Bringing that back, based on the numbers that have been produced, bringing that back so that when we make a decision, when it comes before us, we have everything before us, and we have an ability to make an informed decision, especially, and we look at the cash flow, and we're looking at the timing of what would be issued when, so that we're not undertaking more than we need to at this point, and be able to realize some of this project. So
And having said that, then I'd like to make a motion that we give a directive to Mr. Vela to address the issues that were just mentioned, or the items, the projects that were just mentioned by the mayor, and produce to us the form and function necessary to commit to those projects within the constraints that we have financially. And if you could make that available by our next city commission meeting.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear as to what I'm supposed,
what you're going to do.
And that was a motion, by the way.
Is there a second? All in favor, state aye.
Aye. Now you can clarify.
The overlay remains. The overlay remains, just to make that clear.
Yeah, but that's already been,
So long as we get the commitment, we start the overlay.
Well, the overlay's still going, and then we'll do the decision and the vote, but nothing's stopping the overlay at this point.
so with that
Right?
motion, we were authorized to
We
proceed.
just talked about it.
Well, how we talked about it, in other words, it's going, if we're gonna commit at the next meeting, right now, you're not calling anybody and saying,
Oh, of
stop
course.
everything.
I've never done that.
Okay, then that's what I'm saying, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So what exactly does that motion commit us to, and what do you expect from us at First Southwest?
to come up with a document or the form by which the city will financially commit itself to the projects that we discussed
Based on different funding, different flow, cash flow
as a
needed
cash flow need.
per year.
Seems to me that that's more of a legal request than a financial request,
I'll
other
get
than
with
the
you,
breaking.
Mr. Vela. I'll get with you.
Okay, very well.
But aren't you, I mean, does he need to
You
come
have a
back
part to
with-
play in that, I believe, though.
But he needs to come back with how fast you can do a loan,
Right.
CO and all that.
I need to coordinate with the bond attorney, number one. And just to be clear, we're talking about providing funding for the 165 and 235 road improvements.
Where are we gonna get the 700,000? I guess come up with a proposal on the 700,000.
Well, because that's, we're talking about on that, we're talking about just one fiscal year. And so,
Two.
so 2 fiscal years.
2 fiscal years accelerated into one issuance, okay? And leaving the 1.7 for down the road.
Correct.
That was my understanding. Let me
On the roads.
On the roads.
Then we got everything else that we're,
talking about is doing this and this.
And what I'm saying is that works for the city of San Juan and not having to raise taxes, but it leaves the 700,000 out to finalize the construction of Sue and Eldora. Because you're looking at a cash flow, but Sue and Eldora are 2.35 each, so 4.7 total. But at least you only have to kind of work on the 700,000. Maybe in the
maybe we can go to our state
6.9%.
representative when it comes to the Cesar Chavez portion of it. We can get another partner in this.
Well, Mayor, I'll work with you all.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We can pay for it.
Se puede.
And we can pay for it without burdening our people.
Mayor,
Sí o no?
in your words, tell me what you understand so that I'm clear on it.
Okay, what I'm seeing is we've just mentioned 5. We're talking about funding for cash flow for not the entire amount. We're breaking it up. In the event that you are able to determine how much per year we would be committed to, how much of the other projects can we also fund to be able to begin the work on the ones that we've mentioned? That we could undertake on, based on how much we're making, and you would end up having to, depending on what the cash flow is, being able to commit based with no taxing, and how much we are able to undertake above and beyond the cash flow of 1 year and then the second year on those particular road projects.
Remember that the 165 and the 235 pretty much take you to the 400,000.
So in other words, you're telling me that this year, if we did 1.6 out of the 4 that we could get, we're not talking 1.6 for this year?
Talking about what I was considering was doing the necessary monies that would be needed for 14-15, which is 165, and for 15-16, all in one issuance prior to 9/30 of 15. Prior to the year, okay? Prior to year end, your fiscal year end. Or we could take it, we could do, after the fiscal year.
Right.
But the only thing is that when you do that, it makes that payment a lot longer because, well, let me,
Study all of them, sir. That's what, I think what we're saying is, let's look at what it's all going to cost. Let's look at how much we can undertake. And based on the need of cash flow on the different type of projects, if we're having to, and we're saying, we're about to make 400,000 that's not committed to an expense, it's going to be overflow, and we're looking at that for a payment. And you're telling me it takes $300,000 to pay for 4 million without debt. And let's say that we reach the 400,000, we could actually increase the amount. Of course, now we're taking our risk and saying that's coming in, because that's what we're doing. So I'd like to look at the scenario based on what his projections are, and we took a conservative route by going at 300,000. If we took the route of the 400, we've just expanded to increase rather than the 4 million to possibly 5 to 6 million. With an extra 100, I don't know how much 100,000 more would get us. I want to say 6 million, but let's say that 100,000 is a realistic amount, that we really have maybe $1 million more to work with, perhaps. That's what I want you to be able to tell us, you know what, guys, you're just going to do this. And nothing else is going to happen. Or it can happen, and if it does, these are your options of funding. This is the way the cash flow will flow. This is what you're going to have ready this year, the next year, and the following year. And based on your projections of how you are coming about with the monies, that's,
Can we do this?
let's see. You asked me.
Yes. I understand I understand how we make up the 5.7. And when we need the 5.7. I don't understand the rest. Okay, the rest of the projects that have been delineated. So in order for me to put all this together, I would need a project description and an amount and a timing. If you can give me that, that'll work for me.
Then work on that. And then maybe at the end of the day, we're going to have to pick. If it's not something that we're going to be able to do, we're going to have to pick between all of these and the different combinations to get to whatever we want to accomplish. And then you're going to be able to tell us, if you want to accomplish that, you're going to do it with everything being static, 4 million up to now, or you're going to have to do this much.
The other assumption that we're going to plug here is that there will be a transfer between $300,000 and $400,000 from the general fund for fiscal year 15-16, next year. Not this year, because we're done this year. Is that the assumption?
Yes.
Okay. So who's going to delineate?
Based on only the amount we've spoken. We don't know.
I understand.
As long as we understand that.
I understand.
There might be something else.
So who's going to do the list? Ronnie?
Chief?
Yeah, we're gonna get together tomorrow, we'll call you up so we can set up a meeting
Very well.
and discuss everything.
And you might as well include the bond attorney as well.
Anything else? Commissioner, I want to thank you for being present, Mr. Vela. And of course, the members of our audience and our residents for being present also. Please make sure, let me just finish the thought. Make sure that you keep tabs of when this gets back on the agenda so you can be present for that. Mayor Pro Tem, you had something to say.
There's one more item.
Oh, yeah. All right, under contractuals, A, consider authorizing the interim city manager to enter into a full contract with the Hidalgo County Elections for election equipment provisions and voting data and training of elections officers. This is a contract that it's not included in here, but the one that we
Yes,
submitted.
it was included in the packet that I was given
Okay,
on Friday,
okay.
but it's a basic contract that they have every year and for every city that goes into full contract.
We have the funding for it?
The funding's available with the city secretary department budget.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye. Aye. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned at 8:28.